You got to go behind the very much. This dance is a player for us. We acknowledge the four directions, the sun rising, and that is the sun, and the sun goes down to the west. We also give thanks to the west. It is the door of the woman. Then we go to the north. And the north is the seeds of the woman have passed on. We acknowledge 7 generations forward, 7 generations backwards. And that direction is called the Atlantic Weekly. On to the south. The south is the water element. You have water. Water is life, death, and is the side that represents the child within us. And then giving knowledge for the earth, giving knowledge for the farmers, giving knowledge to the give thanks to the comfort, the worms, the insects, all that is living for us. So I wanted to thank you for inviting us. We are indigenous people and fight for our rights. So I just wanted to really think about, we all come from somewhere. We all come from a place. So I wanted to acknowledge your place where you come from, whether it's Asia, or whether it's Europe, whether it's the Amazons, wherever you come from Africa, to appreciate, know who you are, stand firm as a person of the earth. We all breathe the same air. We all want happiness. We all want to create a better world. And part of that is to create that within our hearts. And also, like one player in front of you today, with the heart of the drum, the sound of the conch, the smoke, the sacred smoke, that we are here present in order to create value in our lives, in order to create the injustice of what's going on. We also have to acknowledge the macro and the micro. We live in a very racist society. We're trying to change that. We also have to acknowledge that within the LGBT community, there's also racism. We have one ethnocentric issue. It's a human issue that we have to fight for. So within the LGBT, we have to also confront those people who are involved in political Donald Trump, and all this stuff. Log-cabin political Republican movement, please get to know who they are. But we must understand that people's lives have been lost. But we must understand that life is sacred. We must understand that all lives matter. Everybody in this planet, children, women, there is so much suffrage from all over the world. So we must stand up as human beings, be erect, be solid, and fight for all human rights. Thank you very much, Esteban, for inviting us. Thank you here all the way from the Sequoia National Monument in Springfield. I did 5 hours from here. This young man also came here. So there's 5 hours. Where many things have happened, good and bad. And with that, we would like to thank you very much and appreciate you for inviting us on the day. I want to thank the organizers for this visual that's in remembrance of the Pulse Nightclub shooting that happened almost 4 years ago. But also we can't not forget the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening right now. Solidarity struggle not just last week or this week or the next week or the following week and the years after that. It has been over 500 years of oppression that we have to overcome. And us as indigenous people or LGBTQ community, we have a unique, there's a philosophy that the 500 years of healing difficulties. And in that philosophy, we are the ones who will be healing. Because before colonialism, we were the healers. We are the healers. We are the healers. All of Black lives must be spoken, and we have to bring that to the surface. We have to challenge our own internalized racism, our own internalized homophobia, our own internalized transphobia, and so we come here. This is a prayer for us, and so in the next part, we do ask that when you do report your license, please no recording. That for hundreds of years, our people have been murdered. with that, hasta la victoria siempre, holiday. We need a more direction. We would like to keep going to the east with us, so turn to the east with us. And when we turn to the west, turn to the west. When we turn to the north, turn to the north with us. When we turn to the south, when we look up with us. And then when we come down to Mother Earth, please all of you kneel down with us and thank Mother Earth for another day of life.
It's maybe on the internet a little bit too much. I'm sure some folks here would understand that. And I just want to say that Black Lives Matter is not a trend. Black Lives Matter is not something that you can gain clout on. Black Lives Matter is a fucking movement for Black lives. And I say this again as a person of color who has also and continues to fight their own anti-Blackness, their own anti-Blackness within their community, their families, and themselves. So please, once the hashtags start to slow down, once all of that starts to become less visible on your fucking Instagram, continue to fight for Black lives! Thank you. That has been on my fucking chest, and I have just needed to scream it out. Black Lives Matter! Thank you. And on one more quick note, I'm sorry, but I also need to call out the folks that continue to pass through this rope. It's not there for no reason. Please, if you see that, do not cross over to take your photos. It is there because we have a space to dance and pray, and because social distancing and coronavirus is still an issue. So please respect it. Respect picket lines, respect prayer lines, and respect Black lives. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Sister Carrie Away, and we are the Sisters of Professional Indulgence. It is an honor. It is an honor to be here with all of you tonight. Over the last 4 years, we have had so many moments of silence. Over the last few weeks, we've had so many moments of silence, rightfully so. We're going to have one right now, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to sound the bell 49 times to honor every single person that was lost 4 years ago. As we sound this bell, count it, meditate on it. Think about the people that they love, the people that love them. We want to feel the energy. We want to feel the Castro with their love and their energy, and send your love to them. Is there more? we want to give you our blessings tonight. We hope that you show patience with each other, you show love for each other, respect to each other, and you fuck shit up. Because that's what we need right now. With love and light, we say, Amen.
Amen.
All women.
All women.
And all the others.
And all the others.
But above all else, right now we say, Black lives. Fucking matter.
We want to thank you all for being here. We're going to take this moment now to do a reading of the names. We're going to break it into 4 segments. I'll begin. Stanley Almodovar III. Amanda Alvear. Oscar A. Arcina Montera. Rodolfo Iola. Alejandro Barrios Martinez. Martin Benitez Torres.
Presente.
Antonio D. Brown.
Presente.
Daryl R. Burt II.
Presente.
Jonathan A. Camoy Vega.
Presente.
Angel L. Candelario Padro.
Presente.
Simone A. Carrillo Fernandez.
Presente.
Juan Chavez Martinez.
Presente.
Luis D. Conde.
Presente.
Corey J. Connell.
Presente.
Tevin E. Crosby.
Presente.
Frankie De Jesus Velasquez.
Presente.
Bianca D. Draper.
Presente.
Mercedes M. Flores.
Presente.
Peter O. Gonzalez Cruz.
Presente.
Juan R. Guerrero.
Presente.
Paul T. Henry.
Presente.
Frank Hernandez.
Presente.
Miguel A. Honorato.
Presente.
Javier Jorge Reyes.
Presente.
Jason P. Josephat.
Presente.
Eddie J. Justice.
Presente.
Anthony L. Lorano Yusa.
Presente.
Christopher A. Lennon.
Presente.
Brenda L. Marquez McCool.
Presente.
John C. Menendez Perez.
Presente.
Akira Monet Murray.
Presente.
Kimberly Morris.
Presente.
John C. Nueves Rodriguez.
Presente.
Luis O. Taxios Capo.
Presente.
Geraldo A. Ortiz Jimenez.
Presente.
Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera.
Presente.
Joel Leon Panagua.
Presente.
Enrique L. Rios.
Presente.
Juan P. Rivera Velázquez.
Presente.
Gilmeri Rodriguez Sullivan.
Presente.
Christopher J. Sanfeliz.
Presente.
Xavier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado.
Presente.
Gilberto Ramon Silva.
Presente.
Edward Sotomayor.
Presente.
Shane E. Tomlinson.
Presente.
Leroy Valentin Fernandez.
Presente.
Luis S. Guilma.
Presente.
Luis Daniel Wilson Leon.
Presente.
Gerald A. Ray.
Presente.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. It's very, gonna take a moment here, right? We want to thank everyone so much for coming today. We want to thank everyone who's here holding space with us today. Tonight you're here to remember the 49 lives that were lost 4 years ago today. This is a living memorial and a moment for us to come together as a community and remember not only the 49 that were lost at Pulse, but to memorialize the lives that we have lost since. We want to remind everyone to make sure to wear a face mask. We want to make sure that you're all using hand sanitizer. And of course, try as best as you can to practice safe social distancing, or I like to call it physical distancing because we like to stay socially close. We want to say hi to all those people that are currently live streaming. Love you too, buddy. This event, thank you for being here in spirit. We also want to take a moment to thank Tata Iseka, as well as the sister Carrie Leeway from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who blessed the space tonight for us. Quick round of applause for all of them. So everyone's going to like use this guy that's on the stage right now. And I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Donnie. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. Pulse was the first gay club I ever went to. It was a place for me as a gay young man to learn about what community is and to find what celebration can truly be as a gay man in Central Florida. On June 12, 2016, I lost one of my best friends, Christopher Drew Lenanen, and his boyfriend, Juan Ramon Guerrero. Since then, this day has always been a very tender spot for myself, as well as our whole community. Last year, there was no memorial plan to serve this memory of this day. Within less than 24 hours, we were able to bring together a couple handful of friends and acquaintances to remember those that were lost. This year, myself and my co-host, Christopher Vasquez, we promised to do their memory justice and to create this event to honor them and our community. Our remembrance serves the memory of those lost due to homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. Our remembrance serves the memory of those lost due to xenophobia, gun violence, and police brutality. Our remembrance serves the memory of those lost due to ineffective government that doesn't serve their people, to those suffering under a system that is apathetic and uncaring, and to those that needed to hear and needed to know that Black lives matter, Black queer lives matter, and that Black trans lives matter too. You see, memory is a tricky thing. It fades over time. Our goal here is to keep the memory alive every year. Whether it's the memory of 49 people that were lost in Orlando, Florida at Pulse Nightclub 4 years ago, or the recent murder of Dominique Fells, a Black trans woman in Philadelphia, or the killing by police of Tony McDade, a Black trans man in Tallahassee, Florida. This event is to serve their memory every year, year after year. Thank you all for being here, and we hope to see you every year after that.
I want to start my remarks tonight by saying something that needs to be said. Black lives matter. Black women's lives matter. Black queer lives matter. And most definitely, Black trans lives matter. In the past few weeks, we've seen the world demand justice of Black individuals we have lost to police and anti-Black violence, like George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. But sadly and unjustly, we don't hear as much mentions for justice for Black women like Breonna Taylor, and even less for Black transgender individuals like Nina Pop, Monica Diamond, and Tony McDade. And tragically, over the last few days, we are finding out that we have lost 2 more Black trans women, Rhea Milton in Ohio and Dominique Remy in Philadelphia. These senseless murders continue a disturbing and disgusting trend of unchecked violence against the transgender community, particularly Black trans women. It is long past due that we let the world know, without question, that Black trans lives matter, and that we fight for the lives of our Black and trans siblings like we fight for everyone else. The violence and killing of Black transgender individuals must very happy you're here. This is a very large crowd and it's very pleasing to see. I'll tell you my quick personal story. I grew up as a queer Latino youth in Orlando all of my life as well. And in the early 2000s, I began my LGBTQ activism with organizations like the Orlando LGBT Center and Equality Florida. But just as important in my queer youth in Central Florida was my early involvement with the nightlife community. I started going to gay bars when I was 16, far too young, and first visited Pulse in 2004, right when it opened. Like many other people in Orlando, Pulse, like countless other LGBTQ bars and nightclubs around the world, was a safe place for individuals, particularly those in the Black, Latinx, and trans community. It was a place we could go to feel free and live openly with the people who loved you and accepted you for who you were, no matter what the outside world thought. It was where we went with our chosen families. I frequented Pulse throughout the years every time I was home visiting family in Orlando, all the way up until the attack in 2016. And every time I went, it continued to be a safe place for me to visit, hang out with a friend who was a bartender there since opening night. He was one of the fortunate ones in 2016 who survived the attack. That is why on June 12, 2016, when I was at LA Pride and started to get notifications about a shooting in a gay bar in my hometown, my heart dropped. I instantly started crying, knowing what this meant. At the time, I didn't know it was Pulse, and I didn't know we would eventually lose 49 beautiful souls. But I wept because our entire community had been violated. I wept because it could have happened anywhere. And the tears flowed harder as I found out the full details of how bad that violation truly was. I can hardly believe it has been 4 years since that dreadful night. Every time I think of that moment, it will always seem like just yesterday that I was there enjoying a cocktail in the company of many beautiful and diverse queer revelers. I know for me, that feeling of both remembrance, loss, and violation will never fade. But I ask everyone who is here tonight or watching online to keep the memory of Pulse, the 49 we lost, and all that have been taken too soon due to anti-Black, anti-Latinx, anti-trans, or any form of anti-queer violence in your heart every day, and do everything you can in your life to honor their lives through action and speaking out against violence everywhere you see it. Let me close by saying that I truly love you all from the bottom of my heart for being here, and thank you. Next up, I would like to introduce
Hi, everyone. I'm feeling really conflicted about being here today. I feel really, really grateful to Donnie and Christopher for organizing this event. Thank you so much. I think we're all really grateful to be here in solidarity. But I'm also really tired. I think we're all really tired. This is not something new, us coming together over experiencing violence. This is something that we have to deal with time and again. Our brothers and sisters are being murdered by police, by people with guns who shouldn't have access to them, and also by the politicians that allow this to continue to happen. So I'm glad to be here in solidarity and glad to be here to remember the people who have passed. But I'm also hoping that we can continue to show up. We can't just meet here once a year or when there's a murder and hold a sign. We have to get involved and actually contribute to change. If we really want to honor the memory of those who have passed, then we need to stand up and fight back. We need to do that on the streets. We need to do that at home. And we need to do that in the voting booth. There are a lot of tough conversations that we have to have, and there are a lot of tough choices that we have to make, but we can't sit down anymore. We can't ignore our civic responsibilities, and we've got to hold these people accountable. We've had 2 Black trans women die just yesterday. One of them was found dismembered. This is unacceptable. We cannot take this lying down. It's enough, and we have to say no more. Black Lives Matter. Black trans lives matter. Dominique's life mattered. Ria's life mattered. Whether you're LGBT, whether you're a woman, whether you're trans, whether you're Black, whether you're brown, there's a lot of injustice in this country. But now more than ever, even here in San Francisco, we need safe spaces. We need queer spaces. What happened in Orlando at Pulse was a tragedy, because that was a safe space for queer, Black, and brown people to go and be in community and be in solidarity. It was an attack on who we are as a people, as a country, where we were going. And now, these past 4 years, we've taken several steps back, and we have to make sure that we don't take one step more. We can only go forward from here on out. As an owner at the Stud, we have to close our doors. That's one less safe space we have here. We have to make sure that we're looking out for our community spaces, for our small businesses, for our community members, because those are the backbones of our community. Those are where Black and brown people and queer people and trans people can find work. So make sure So let's make sure that we're doing everything we can to honor the memories that have passed, of the people who have died, of the businesses that have closed, of the spaces that have disappeared because we've been asleep. And let's make sure that doesn't happen in the future. I just want to thank one more time Donnie and Christopher for holding this. And thank you all for being here and showing up. And I hope you'll continue to show up, especially in November. Thank you.
Next to the stage, we'd like to welcome Fred, who is the executive director of San Francisco Pride. Hello, everybody. Thank you as well to the organizers for this amazing collection. It's really heartening to see all of your faces, even with masks here tonight. And I really wish we didn't have to be here. It's heartbreaking that we are here to remember 49 beautiful lives that were taken away so quickly and so senselessly. And we come out every year to remember these people. And as Honey said, we have to remember the rest of the people, of our friends, our lovers, our family members, our sisters, our brothers, who have been taken from us too soon. In 2016, I was just joining the Pride team, and I wasn't the executive director at the time. I was just helping with the parade route. And so I joined up and I thought, this is gonna be great. You know, I'm gonna get to ride up and down the parade route in a golf cart, and I get to say hello to everybody, and it's gonna be the most amazing thing. And then Pulse happened and everything changed. And instead of seeing Pride as something that was so exciting to look forward to, I remember feeling a little scared. I remember wondering if we were going to be targets. I remember wondering, you know, who's going to come out and try to victimize us, to make us feel scared. And I had those moments of fear, and then I remembered, no, that is not what this is about. We need to stand up and be out in the streets and show our strength and our solidarity. And I have to tell you that my favorite memories of that year were being along the parade route and the level of gratitude and beauty and love and compassion that everybody that I encountered that day was astonishing. And it gave me strength to move forward, and it gave me strength to continue to invest in this community, to continue to spend time in queer spaces, to come to the queer neighborhoods, to check in on our queer seniors, to support our queer youth, because we have to take care of ourselves. Now, we are faced with another situation in which we are remembering lives that should not have been taken. And we have to remember that in the wake of such senseless, horrible tragedy, there are moments of joy, like I'm feeling right here, seeing all of you, and that we have to continually remind ourselves to come out, as Christopher said, every year, and then also to come out every week, and the week after that, and continue to stand up for folks who need us to stand up for them, to continually say that Black lives matter, to continually say that Black trans lives matter, to continually say that all of our queer lives matter, and that we have to stand up for one another. So thank you all for being here. It's always hard to take this moment a couple weeks before Pride, which, like I said, is usually such an amazing moment. This year is so interesting and challenging and strange, and so I appreciate you for taking the risk to show that this is important, that we gather, that this is important to us as a community. So thank you again for being here. Thank you. Thank you. I was a little bit flummoxed last time. That was Fred Lopez, Executive Director of SF Pride. Next, we're going to welcome up Nicole Santamaria, who is the Executive Director of El La Para Trans Latinas.
Hola, buenas tardes. Hello, everybody. Well, my name is Nicole Santamaria, and I came from the tiniest country of Central America, El Salvador. I came here 5 years ago because I survived a brutally attack that people left me for dead. So 10 days later, I arrived to the United States. I arrived to Washington, D.C. And 1 year later, I heard about this massacre in Orlando, Florida. So then I was like, I fled my home country. I fled my people. I fled my mom. I fled my land. And here in this country is still happening this kind of massacre, this hatred, this genocide against us. So right now that I have the opportunity to be here in front of each one of you, I want to say thank you, because each one of your faces give me hope. Because I can see my humanity through all of you. And I can see the living memory of those that we have lost for hatred. So Ella para Trans Latina, represented by myself, is here to say, transgenders are here. Transsexuals are here. Transvestites are here. Intersexuals are here. Gender non-conforming are here. Non-binary people are here. And we have continued putting our blood on the street. And we are going to continue standing up. We are going to continue raising our voices for the entire LGBTQI plus community. Right. We are here to remember, because those who forget our stories, we are condemned to repeat them again. And we cannot let that happen. For all our siblings that have lost their life for hatred. So we are here, like 51 years ago, Marsha Johnson and Sylvia Rivera stood up. and I will keep dreaming. And I think the collective dream of each one of us that we can be free, free of hatred, free of violence, free of police. Come on, we need to do better. We need to do better. Dominique and Leah and the rest of the transgender community has been murdered year after year after year. We cannot let that happen again. So thank you, each one of you. Thank you for the memories of these people who have lost their lives. But this is also a celebration of your life. Because hatred, they don't take away what they meant for us. Thank you, everybody. It's so fire. We are here.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Next to the stage, we'd like to welcome Ani Rivera, who's the Executive Director of Galleria de la Raza.
Hi, everyone. Buenas tardes. I want to start by first acknowledging that we're in unceded Ohlone Ramaytush lands. I think it's really important to understand the history of the lands that we stand on. And a lot of you know, feel like I'm going to talk in Spanish and English. A lot of the points, muchos de los puntos que ya se hicieron, los quiero repetir en español. Estamos aquí para honorar las vidas de 49 personas que fueron brutalmente quitadas de nuestras vidas, de nuestro universo. Y creo que estamos en un momento ahora en que Orlando fue solamente un ejemplo de las experiencias que se han vivido en nuestras comunidades de color por tantos años, desde las leyes de Jane Crow, desde los 500 años que hemos estado peleando contra el colonismo. Y quiero también recordar que las personas que representa Orlando es una comunidad que siguen siendo invisibles en nuestra comunidad latinx, la comunidad afro-latina. Quiero que la gente que se identifica como afro-latina que venga al frente, porque necesitamos celebrar esas voces. Sus voces son vitales. También han tenido generaciones y generaciones de pelear contra la esclavitud. Y creo que al siguiente año les voy a pedir a los organizadores que estén seguros que haya visibilidad. So, tengo una gran amiga, Julia Cepeda, de la gran familia Cepeda de Puerto Rico, que pelean por honorar lo que es la visibilidad afrolatina. Entonces les reto eso. Al seguir peleando tenemos que estar seguros que hagamos lugares donde quepan muchos mundos y donde hagamos que la prioridad sean los que son más marginados. Hoy se acaba de pasar otra ley por el ocupante de la Casa Blanca, que supuestamente de la Oficina de Derechos Civiles, que les quitará los derechos humanos a nuestra comunidad transgénero. También es un ataque a la comunidad de mujeres. Esto va a afectar a mujeres que han tenido abortos. Esta es una guerra contra los cuerpos de color. It's a battle against black and brown bodies. It is not enough of just saying Black Lives Matter. We have to ask them to take the stage. Always at the beginning. Always. We uplift their voices right now. So I'm so glad that we can come together and honor those 49 people. But we cannot continue to take up space that doesn't belong to us. So again, I said, we're the Afro-Latino, we're the Black folks in the front. Let's give them the space. Right. Julia, would you like to share about your family story of survival and resistance? Just a few words, and she's going to do it probably in Spanish.
Buenas tardes a todos, gracias por estar aquí. Bien, como dijo Ani, yo creo que es muy importante pararnos en solidaridad y que sintamos que todos somos uno. Mi familia por muchos años han sido perseguidas porque somos una familia negra, puertorriqueña, que han defendido el folclore, la tradición. Llevamos 7 generaciones ininterrumpidas haciendo lo que hacemos de nuestra tradición de música, y por ser una música de negros, anteriormente a mi familia les rompían los instrumentos y tenían ellos que volverlos a crear. Así que yo creo que es muy importante porque nosotros hemos resistido eso en 7 generaciones. Para mí, es un honor estar aquí, yo soy parte de la organización de Queda para Translatina. Soy manejadora de Castro. Creo en los valores y de nosotros como seres humanos, pero creo que también tenemos que seguirnos apoyando unos a otros y no solamente decir que estamos uno para otro, sino realmente luchar por la vida de todos.
And really, it was brought up earlier, but when it all comes down to is defund the fucking police. Defund the police. Defund white supremacist systems that are keeping us down. Right now, we have the moment to talk to the federal government, the state government, the local government, save our cultural spaces, make sure that we're watchful, that we're making sure we have housing, that we can stop wholeheartedly who we are without having to sacrifice any of it. We need Castro, we need Galería de la Raza, we need transmission, we need the Queer Cultural Center, we need the African American Cultural Center, we need to thrive. This is how they want to control us. They will control our culture, our language, and our bodies. Fuck that! Defund the police! Now! In love and solidarity, always.
Thank you, both of you. Next up, we have Maceo Person, who is the Director of Communications and External Affairs for the Office of Transgender Initiatives.
I'm short, so I didn't see how far back this was. I'm Maceo. Thanks so much for being here, he, him. I'm with the Office of Transgender Initiatives. And I've been thinking about like what to say throughout the week. This is another like very profound date in my life. We have some profound dates. Of course, Transgender Day of Remembrance is something else like this that we observe annually about people who've been taken from us unjustly and in horrific ways. And then last night when I was really trying to think about it more is when I learned about the murders of Dominique and Ria. And it was like a punch to the gut, like a very familiar punch to the gut each time you hear about it, or each time you learn about the news. So anything that I was going to say, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. I put something together again this morning. And then this afternoon, we found out that the HHS passed a rule. And that they just passed a rule to allow just any medical provider to discriminate against trans people. Thank you. And in the middle of a global pandemic, which there's so many kinds of violence, between the violence that was perpetrated at Pulse and the violence that was perpetrated yesterday, the violence that we haven't even gotten to yet mourn or get justice for with Tony McDade or with Nina Holt. Like there's so much violence going on continuously that's trying to silence us. And even the federal government is trying to erase us and literally allow people to neglect our care when there's a global pandemic. what we say? Fuck that. Yeah, and that's part of why I think Pulse is so important to highlight those lives and what they meant to us. Because they were people that were unapologetically Black, Latino, queer, trans. Having a space of joy, having a space to dance, having a space to find their one-night stands and their next exes. A place to live in the face of all the violence that we face every day. Whether that is like anti-immigrant sentiments of violence, whether that's anti-Blackness, whether that is anti-Latinidad and anti-queerness and anti-transness. In the face of all of that, we found a place to have joy. And I think that's something that we have to remember. We have to keep finding those places of joy, and we also have to keep finding our voice. Because right now people want us, again, to be silent. And I think more than anything, it's true, like the Black Lives Matter protest has blown open a door on a conversation that I did not necessarily think that was gonna happen in the mainstream that it has. Black leaders have taken us to another plane right now. It's really incredible, and we have to support that leadership, and we have to hold each other and ourselves accountable all the time. And I think that means like holding self accountable about when we're complicit in anti-Blackness and what that means, and asking those really difficult questions for ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable for when we are complicit around anti-Blackness. That is sometimes hard to see, and then that is sometimes when we need our friends to tell us, and we need to listen to each other around that. We also need to figure out what that looks like here in the Castro.
Say it.
This is not a space that's often friendly to Black and Latino trans people.
No.
No. Usually there's very one specific kind of body that is welcome here. A cis body, a fit body, a white body. And we have to interrogate that and what that means, right? Why are spaces here not necessarily Black and trans and Latino as much at all? We get one night, right? So we have to answer that. The other thing is, I agree, like with Honey, hold us accountable in government. Government is supposed to take care of the good, like the public good. And if we're not taking care of Black trans lives, Latino trans lives, then we're failing. So hold us accountable. And one thing that I know right now, like just in the last 24 hours, I'm angry. I am sad, I am tired, but I'm angry. And yeah, like this could happen for 4 more years, and we can't let that happen. Like in the next 3 Mondays, a Supreme Court decision might come out, or will come out. It will, and it will say whether or not we can discriminate against queer and trans people across the country. Title VII case will come out at any moment, and we might be here soon again, maybe on Monday. But I say, like, with that, you said it. And when
We all need to be here.
yes,
We all need to be here now. We all need to be acting like something's going on.
and it is.
What's going on?
Well, right now we're commemorating Pulse,
What's Pulse?
and we are.
White people, gather your friends.
Yeah, speak up. Speak out. Do something. Do anything.
That's the whole point. Where are they at? Let's help. Let's go, bro. Now's not the time.
No.
Now's not the
Don't
time.
put your hands on me. White people? Why do white people need to do something? That sounds like some racial privilege to me. Why do you have to be the bad guy?
Oh,
Yes, let's have a conversation.
I have something I'd like to say. No, I don't need a cigarette right now. I don't want a cigarette. Can you please sit up? I would like to feel safe in my own neighborhood.
I think we can have a conversation, but let's have him
No.
speak first. And we can talk over there.
No. No, you won't. We're all gathered here. Why do you go? I know what I feel. So listen. What's your name? No. Give me 30 seconds. Because you won't shut up.
Reclaiming our time.
Microphone talk. Microphone talk. Right behind you. Ready?
Hold us accountable, hold the federal government accountable. But in the end, I do believe we will win. 20 years ago, I never in my life imagined that people would regularly have access to gender affirming care. Or at least in California, that there would be statewide laws that was the case. That, if you told me that then, I would not believe it. 20 years ago, if you told me that you could be trans and a teacher, I would not believe it. There's so many things. If you told me 20 years ago that I would meet children, like youth in high school that told me about their transgender non-conforming queer identities, my mind would be blown. Because when I was in high school, I didn't know there was trans men. We have moved so far ahead, and we will continue. And what will make that happen is we scream and we shout and we vote and we march and we protest until we don't have to have any more vigils. I want to thank the Black Lives Movement for, again, blowing open that door around where we can invest our resources in. So I wanted to say, let's invest our resources in Black trans lives. Next, I also am so excited to introduce someone who is amazing, who I look up to as an organizer, as an activist, someone who absolutely will never be silenced, someone who has blown open the door for lots of people, someone who came out at a high school pep rally, has been an organizer with youth for a long time, and now is a huge leader with the Trans March. No further ado, but I want to introduce the amazing, wonderful Rexy Amaral.
Some of you this weekend might have gotten a glimpse of something down here. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't expecting the stage to be this tall. Hi, everyone. I'm Rexy, the one and only Rexy. Yes, that's also me. First off, I want to acknowledge what just happened up here. And yes, standing up for our space and taking our space. But I also want to acknowledge some of the things that I heard being screamed, which are very anti-homeless. And that is not what we're going to do. Our movement, and let's talk about class, because this is not something to applaud about. This is something that we need to check each other for. If you see that happening, you turn to that person and you tell them, let's not do that. We meet everyone with compassion. As someone who, not yet, I'll tell you when to applaud, trust me. I'm very assertive when I want that. As someone, yeah, I actually came out in middle school, I just wanted to correct that. And before I came out, I experienced homelessness with my family. And I know what it's like to be looked down on. And I know what it's like to when you are wanting to be heard and don't have the access to education like many of us do. I know what it's like to have people look down on you, because I still go through that. I didn't go to college. I barely graduated high school. I was busy staying alive. Staying alive. You know, I gotta have some comedy or else I'm like, And this McGrath mascara is not gonna run today. Not today. Support Black-owned beauty. But I want us to make sure that even when we're in these spaces, we're checking each other. Last Wednesday, there was a beautiful march that happened at the Lord's Park. How many of you were there? Yeah. And how many of you were checking the white people leading the chant? Exactly. Two of us are doing the work for all of us. That is not okay. Check your friends and check those who aren't your friends. If we continue to block people on social media and we continue to cancel people right away and not give them the education, then we're just building a bigger army against us. Thank you. And have those conversations with your family. I know I am. I know I had a cousin quit his job as a policeman, and I'm very proud of that. Exactly. Now we can go into what I have to say. This is from the scripture of Rexy. Sorry, I also need a lot of comedy right now because, again, pride, emotion, hormone. Before I do start, I also want to take some time for us to acknowledge how we're feeling, how our hearts are doing. If you've been wanting to cry, let those tears out, because I've been crying every single day, every single morning, all day and all night. I want us to check in with ourselves and check in with our Black siblings. Check in with the organizers who are doing the work. It's tiring to have someone call you up every hour telling you that not something new has happened. Someone else's life has been taken away. Check in with each other. Feel your hearts. In my family, we have learned about a tradition of grieving. I was taught that there were the 3 stages of death. The first is when our body ceases to function, when our hearts no longer beat to their own accord, when our gaze no longer has depth, and the space we occupy slowly loses its meaning. The second death comes when our bodies meet Mother Earth again. Our physical body is out of sight. And the third and last is when there's no one else left to remember us. As we continue with our day, we must remember those who were taken away from us. Let us remember to say their names, celebrate their lives, and keep their legacies alive. As many others have said, as we continue to remember our Pulse family, let us also remember our fallen trans brothers, sisters, and siblings, especially our Black family. Gee, thank you. And let us remember their names while we continue to fight for justice and liberation. Let us not separate our fight for safe spaces like Pulse, while continuing to create hostile environments for our Black siblings. I'm looking at all of this read right here. That part. You can applaud there. And stop. I like that control. Let us fight for these spaces where we can all feel safe without fear of being judged, criticized, or ostracized. Let us fight for a common liberation away from homophobia, transphobia, racism, police brutality, and all the other phobias and isms. I urge you all as a community to pledge to be an ally, be a friend, fight for justice and liberation, and continue to show up to protest. Sign the petition, donate. Hear that one? Donate. That one means money. If you have it, if you have those techie friends, my Venmo is, I'll tell you later. Just do something. Remember, we would not be here if it wasn't for riots. And until all of us are free, not all of us are free. Thank you.
Thank you, Rexy. That was amazing. Inspiring youth all around. We actually want to invite up another youth from the community. We have Luca Fernandez, who is a Promesa youth with Instituto Familiar de la Raza.
Wow, they weren't kidding when they said it really went really far. Hi, well, as you heard, my name is Luca. I have some notes, let me pull that up. Wow. I was asked to speak up here about 3 days ago. I was like, I don't know. But then I said, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say. And if it were up to me, I would speak here for like 2 hours. But it's really cool, so I'll keep it short. So yeah, my name is Luca. My full name, actually, English short name. My full name is Luca Amaru Fernandez Chase. I am Peruvian. My mom is from Peru. I was raised primarily in Peru. I did my high school in Argentina. And I came out during high school as well. I came out as a trans man. Now I'm 2 years on hormone replacement therapy, and I'm 3 months post-op, so I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, if you would ask me when I first came out, I would have not believed you. I think that's what I'm being here. Our past self wouldn't believe how far we can get in just a short amount of time. And I think that applies to a lot of situations, you know, transition, coming out, improvement of our community and our society. And I remember when I was in high school, I was really into the activism stuff. I say when I'm here. And I spoke about the Pulse shooting there. I taught my classmates and other people from my school about LGBT phobia, about LGBT issues, and I really wanted to put the word out there about our struggles. And I think that's something I've really had time to really think about. And throughout these years, things have been adding onto that, you know. I care about, you know, the issues I face, about the issues of transphobia and racism and xenophobia. But I'm starting to really open the scope of what I see, you know, in the sense of solidarity with those issues that don't personally affect you. We cannot stand by in silence against injustice towards Black people, towards trans people, towards queer people, towards working class people, towards people that are paid minimum wage jobs, that are putting their lives at stake during a pandemic to keep the economy alive. I want to quote Angela Davis, in fact. And I will, to quote her, it says, "I believe profoundly in the possibilities of democracy, but democracy needs to be emancipated from capitalism. As long as we inhabit a capitalist democracy, a future of racial equality, gender equality, and economic equality will elude us." And we have to call it out for what it is. It isn't just the system. It isn't just the politicians. This is something that is way deeper than that. In fact, I will say that our part is beyond the voting booth. It's beyond that. Because they won't go down without a fight. They won't be peacefully voted out. They won't give up their power that easily. And if you've ever seen, there's this been going around in social media, a social experiment by Jane Elliott called Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes. But if you've ever seen that video, you see the writhing, the reluctance to give up privilege, the reluctance to give up power. And when you're up there, when you're a billionaire, when you're white, when you're cis, when you have those privileges, when you're a man, you have that privilege that's comfortable. You stay there. You don't give that up, because if people love saying like racism is over, there's no inequality, but you've seen people being asked, okay, but would you live the life of someone that lives this? You say there's no inequality against trans people, no, gay people are accepted now. Would you live the life of a gay person? And they'll be quiet, because they know in their heart that that is not true. And I would like to also add to that LGBT liberation has been distorted into joining hegemony. And that is straight hegemony, white hegemony. They want to see us, they see our liberation as a JCPenney's float at the parade. An Amazon float at the parade, an Apple, you know, wearing all the Apple shirts with like the rainbow on there. That is not LGBT acceptance. That's capitalism infiltrating the most radical movements. Trying to take away the true message that it's not just LGBT acceptance. It's LGBT plus liberation. We want to free ourselves from those 500 plus years of oppression, the transphobia and homophobia that white people and religion have exported worldwide to all these indigenous communities and that have accepted people like us for the longest time. And I'm tired, you know, I'm so tired of seeing these issues just brushed under the rug or seen as almost like a few bad apples, or there is a root we have to pull out, you know. That's why it's called radical, because you grab a problem from the root and you pull it out. And all these issues back to all the root of everything, you know, capitalism, colonialism, US imperialism around the world, you know. We want the US outside of other countries. Get the US out of Latin America. Get the fuck out of Palestine. Get the fuck out of Africa. Stop shooting the global south. Okay? Free Palestine. Puerto Rico libre. You know, I'm so tired. And land back to indigenous peoples. Land back. Okay? And we need to be aware that those are the issues. Don't let them trick you into it's just a matter of voting. I think it goes beyond that. It goes beyond voting. It goes through your actions, through your learning. You start listening to people. These past few days, I was going to write a whole speech, but I ended up just watching videos of Angela Davis and other great speakers. And that, I think just that was worth it more than writing like the speech. I'm sorry, I kind of got out, went off track, but you know, learn, listen, radicalize yourself. You know, we have to change this society from the bottom up. We have power. We have, I think these protests have shown us how much power we wield. You know, we may not be billionaires, we may not be white, we may not be at the top, but we have something they don't, and that's numbers. There's so many of us, and there's so many that are willing to make solidarity to change that. You know, I want to see a world where we see our differences. It's not like I don't see color. We see our differences. We acknowledge them and we grow because of it. Okay? And yeah, thanks for listening. Let me take my notes real quick if I forgot something, because I probably did. And a couple last quotes. The first one's from Angela Davis. I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm changing the things I cannot accept. And this last quote is by Pedro Albizu Campos. Some of you might be familiar with him, some might not. He was one of the great leaders of the Puerto Rican independence movement. He was killed by the US by being exposed to radiation and died later because of that. But he said, cuando la tiranía es rey, la revolución es orden. Actually, sorry, la tiranía es ley, la revolución es orden. And that means when tyranny is law, revolution is order. Because we cannot stand idly by and watch tyranny rule us all and tell us how we should be living to please them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luca. I just want to point out that those last two speakers, Rexy and Luca, are going to be our future leaders, and something about that, actually, everything about that makes me feel good about the future. Yeah, more youth like them. Next up, I'd like to bring up Chris Gabriel, who's the general manager of Q-Bar.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris, the general manager at Q-Bar down the street. I'm much better at writing than I am at speaking off the cuff, so I'm just going to read something that I wrote. Living in this country, especially if you're a person of color, is to live with violence. Your skin, your hair, your body, your very existence is the license for a daily assault that you must endure, tolerate, internalize, and deflect, so every waking second doesn't feel like warfare. I myself have been utterly desensitized to the particular horror of American culture that is the mass shooting. So much so that I barely even blink when it happens again and again and again. But when I woke up the morning of June 12th, 2016, to horrific videos from inside Pulse Nightclub, to posts on Facebook from people who had lost loved ones, and to the unimaginable death toll, I knew something was different this time. I couldn't control the gut-wrenching sadness that poured out of me as I held my boyfriend and sobbed. 49 people was all I could mutter through my tears. I didn't realize it at the time, but it wasn't just sadness that gripped me so tightly that morning. It was also pure and unadulterated fear. I'd never actually been to Pulse, but I felt a deep understanding of the kind of space it was and what it meant to the community. For a lot of us, queer nightlife spaces are our first introduction to the larger LGBTQ plus community around us. The first gay bar I ever went to was the Stud, and it was a beautiful, messy, and illuminating introduction to an undiscovered world. I found passion and friendship and community there, and it changed who I was and how I saw myself. When I lived in New York City, I started going to bars and clubs that specifically catered to Black and brown clientele, in particular Latinx and Afro-Latinx communities. And through those experiences, developed an even deeper understanding of what these spaces mean. So much of what has become mainstream gay culture is geared towards cisgender white men. And while we engage with some of the spaces that foster that demographic, because honestly, a lot of the time, where else do we have to go? A lot of us never truly feel like we are welcome, like we belong. So these new and exciting spaces where Black and brown folks were creating new paradigms of queer culture became my escape and my refuge, not only from a homophobic society, but also from the racism that pervades our own community. Nightlife is often dismissed as nothing more than drinking and drugs and parties, but there is real cultural exchange that occurs when we are allowed to express ourselves freely. There is power in our celebrations. So while I never actually set foot in Pulse, I understood how it was a central and vital space in a way that reverberated across state lines and into pockets of queer communities throughout the country. We are all connected. Since I've been working at Q-Bar, we've made it our mission to be that inclusive, safe space for folks who don't always feel welcome in gay bars full of cisgender white men. I was proud to work with other folks of color at parties that celebrate Latinx and Black contributions to our collective culture, to see trans performers of color and Latinx drag queens and hear hip hop music more than one night a week. This is a space where I feel at home and feel I am with family. And I think that's why the Pulse shooting renewed a sense of loss and devastation in me that I hadn't felt in so long. Feelings that had been dulled and numbed by the constant and unrelenting violence this country heaves at us. I felt like it could have just as easily been my home, my family, and I was terrified. Years and years and video after video of Black death at the hands of police and virulent, reprehensible racism and sexism and xenophobia and homophobia and transphobia commodified as political campaign ideology and military-grade weapons in the hands of violent men, and all of it just seemed to have culminated one night in June at a space where my people gather just to feel safe, to feel love, to feel joy, and to feel community. In the following days, I remember how it took an outcry of our voices to insist that it was important and meaningful that Pulse was a space for Black and brown people, for Latinx people, when the media attempted to all lives matter the moment. Even in death, we have to fight for our identities to be seen. So much of existing as an LGBTQ plus person, and especially as a Black or brown, queer, or trans person in this country, is about struggling to find a place where you can just fucking relax. A place where you feel safe enough to let your guard down and forget for one moment about all the institutions and power structures and politicians and religious fanaticism that's out there actively trying to destroy you. After Pulse, our whole community mourned such indescribable violence and loss, and I felt that deep sadness. But I also felt something else. I felt anger. I felt resolve. I felt renewed dedication to my mission. I felt a determination to continue to build and create and advocate for spaces where we can feel safe and protected and free. This is one small way we can honor not just those who lost their lives at Pulse, but also our trans sisters whose murders are still happening and barely make the news. Our Black brothers and sisters who are taken from us by a racist, murderous police state, and everyone who is targeted, abused, terrorized, and killed in this country for simply existing as they are and were meant to be. What we are experiencing right now is a moment that truly feels different. Maybe it's the way we've all been forced to stop our day-to-day that usually lets us overlook and quickly forget each injustice we see. Now we are forced to see and feel and say with each and every one of them. It finally feels like there are more of us who refuse to take this. I don't know what the future is going to look like, but I do know we still need our spaces to feel joy and love and creativity and passion, and above all, just to feel hope. Queer Nightlife can and should provide that for us. So on the other side of all this pain and chaos and suffering and uncertainty, in this new world that we now have the opportunity to build, let's make sure that it does. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for sticking with us tonight. I know it's starting to get cold. We only have a couple more speeches left. So now I'm just going to welcome up Levi Maxwell, who's a community activist here in San Francisco. Hey, this last is kind of really hard to speak on microphone. I'm going to keep this very quick. I think right now we have so many emotions that are running through us. And we're very quick to defend the spaces that we create for ourselves. It's very important that we maintain these sorts of spaces, but in this time, it's also very critical that we not use the same levels and kinds of force as the police have done to people who are mentally ill and homeless and of color. And we try to reimagine the ways we engage with folks who are in a lot of pain. I was lucky enough, we were all lucky enough to meet a person by the name of Zero who wanted to speak something, speak their experience and their truth. And I know it may have been hard to hear. And of course, there's a time and place for everything. But when I got to talk to him, I was able to realize Zero just wanted to be heard as someone who was homeless. We don't all have nightlife spaces. I was a runaway 17-year-old in San Francisco on this very corner with Buena Rural kind of like space. It was named that in the district. And it's very critical that we recognize that Castro is home to many people without roofs over their heads. And while they may not be able to pay for drinks, and while they may not be able to live in these homes, that they're worthwhile of our love and our compassion. Thank you. Like I said, there was only a couple left. This last one is actually a pre-recorded message from a person that I really absolutely admire right now. This is my new boss, my new mentor, and a new member of the San Francisco community. We're going to play a message from Amani Rupert, the Executive Director of the National Center for Lesbian Rights.
Good evening, and thank you for having me and for coming out tonight. My name is Imani Rupert Gordon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the Executive Director for the National Center for Lesbian Rights. I want to send my apologies that although I cannot be there with you in person, my heart is most certainly there with you today. It's always the hope that on the anniversary of a tragedy, that we would have the opportunity to look back at where we've come from, so that we'd be able to say, never again, and point to the concrete steps that have been taken to ensure that those words will ring true. Sadly, the hate that caused the murder and harm of our community members at Pulse Nightclub 5 years ago can still be seen in the world today. It's represented in the murders of people in our community like Ryan Milton and Remy Fells. We see it in our policies and who our government chooses to protect. Just today, you've seen rollbacks on health protection for transgender folks by this administration, and the death of so many Black people at the hands of those that are sworn to protect us. People like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, and so many others. But I see something today that is different, that wasn't here 5 years ago. I see something forming. Even in the face of a growing pandemic, I see communities listening and centering the most underrepresented of us. I see creativity and new paths to victory. I see us working in coalition and addressing institutional racism and anti-Blackness within our communities. I see us working intersectionally. I see that there are leaders and helpers that know that our community is worth fighting for. I see the type of work happening in our world to keep what happened at Pulse Nightclub from happening again. So today, I'm thankful for the organizers, the leaders, and the community that honor the memory of those killed at Pulse Nightclub and are making our world a safer world and a better world for all of us.
I'm actually going to break social distancing because I want Donnie to come up here with me. Excuse me.
I broke a pair of jeans today going up and down here, so
He did split his jeans earlier. I'm not like it. So I want to say on behalf of myself and my co-organizer Donnie and everybody involved with bringing the Pulse Memorial to the Castro tonight, I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here and for staying here through all the cold weather. I also want to note that there are several LGBTQ elected officials who made it today, and many of them put letters of solidarity together that we'll be posting online. Those include City Treasurer Jose Cisneros, District 8 Supervisor Rafael Mandelman, State Senator Scott Weiner, School Board President Mark Sanchez, City College Board of Trustees Vice President Tom Temprano and Trustee Alex Randolph, and BART Board members Janice Lee and Bevan Duffy. We also had a letter of solidarity, and I'm not sure if you made it in person, but from Assembly Member Phil Ting today. I'd like to also thank the amazing coalition that came together very, very quickly to make tonight as much of a success as it's been. Just several weeks ago, Donnie and I didn't even know if we'd be able to throw this event. Honestly, we've been talking for the last year about doing something, but because of the pandemic, we didn't know if it was going to be possible. We saw through what's been happening with Black Lives Matter, that people have the spirit to be out and to stand up for justice. And so we wanted to be here with you all tonight, and I'm glad you all made it. And I do want to just quickly go through the list of our coalition partners, because a lot of them, even if they didn't speak tonight, provided a lot of support, and we couldn't have done it without them. That includes Ella Para Transaltinas, Aguilas, Instituto Familiar de la Raza, Galleria de la Raza, St. Castro Pride. This next one's very special because they actually have provided us with the support to have the ASL interpretation, and that's Strut and the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. We also have, and very special myself as well, we have the Castro LGBTQ Cultural District, on which I serve on the board. We have the Transgender District, the Lutheran LGBTQ Cultural District, the Calle 24 Latino Cultural District, the Office of Transgender Initiatives, both the Alice P. Focused LGBT Democratic Club and the Harvey Milk LGBT. Oh, and Lookout. We also had support from some Burning Man organizations, Boz and Glam Pops. And I'd be very remiss if I didn't thank again the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for opening it up, and also Johnson Mexico for doing the blessing dance at the beginning. I'd also be very remiss if I didn't thank our technical support staff tonight. We had Tom Sego, who's here, Kelly Naughton, who's run away somewhere. But I really want everybody, doing our video, and James Quinn. But I also want everybody to give a really big round of applause. He's helped out a lot tonight, but he was one of the people who put together the LGBTQ Black Lives Matter Solidarity March last week, and that's Tommy Trujillo. And finally, before we all march over to 8th and Castro, I want you to pay attention when we get there to this beautiful banner that we hung today to honor the 49 we lost, which was generously designed by a good friend of mine and the amazing artist, Simone Melveas, who's here in the crowd. You may know him because a couple of his murals have gone up in Castro, one at Church and Market, and one on the front of Q Bar. But I also want to thank Mark Leno and Budget Signs because he generously donated the printing services and the banner that we hung today. And finally, as we walk to the memorial corner, let's again be led by, Donza Mexica. Okay. Please continue to maintain social distancing for the walk over and for when you pay your respects at the corner. Thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. And once again, please always keep the memory of the Pulse 49 and everybody else we've lost to any type of anti-Black, anti-LGBT, anti-trans violence in your heart every single day as we go forward. Thank you.